Okay, so welcome everyone to this talk about Merlyn and its impact in special educational needs settings. I'm very proud to have Emma Thorn from the Pioneer School in Basildon in the UK, who have been trialing Merlyn for now nearly a year. And Emma, you're going to share with us your experiences and the impact that it's made in your classroom. So Emma, without further ado, over to you.
Thank you, Ian. Okay, in regards to sort of just the classroom setting, we'll have lots of different areas in which we use during the classroom, and when we're doing a whole class activity, it's very important to keep that momentum going. Because obviously the transition from activities can be quite challenging for our young people. Getting everybody to sit together is a skill that we're encouraging everybody to develop and learn. So that is obviously sort of like a big challenge before we've even started actually looking at the lesson. So having a device that allows us to promptly start and promptly transition in between activities is really helpful. It allows us to move between different screens very quickly and promptly. It allows us to start video recordings very quickly, and it provides us, with a very sort of streamlined lesson without the distraction of other things such as using laptops or keyboards. Obviously, all of those things have their place, but it can just allow everybody to have that additional bit of focus on what we're doing in the session. So that's a very positive thing that we found, and we don't have to wait for things, to sort of get started. We're literally just pressing a button, which can really be quite positive within the lesson structure. Within our school, we use a total communication strategy. So we use sign language, symbols. We use electronic and paper-based core communication boards. Some of our children have their own devices. So the Merlyn does give us that opportunity to have that hands-free option, especially for the teacher. So if you're not holding a wireless keyboard, having to move slides sort of through, you can still be signing while you're teaching, which is a very positive thing for us. And it also means that you can use the device wherever you are in the room, which again is a very positive thing for us, because again we can be supporting a student to engage and interact in the lesson, while also allowing us to move to the next aspect of the lesson by using the device. Some technology for some students can be quite a challenge. Some students can be very hyper focused on controlling some technology, to be able to so having something that's very discreet and allows you to focus can be really helpful, and so that allow you to continue with the lesson. And again, it enables you then to use the interactive technology throughout the lesson. It's something that I've, like as a teacher, have had to approach and deal with students in the past, with the use of technology in class, and making sure that it has, really, maximizes the positivity of it and promoting education. So we don't have to worry about keyboards or mice or anything that can be stored elsewhere, if that is something that children can find challenging in a lesson. And again, there's also the options, because you can plan each day what you're programming your device to access. You can also have things that are very calming, that you can automatically put on in between sessions. Or brain breaks. If you're doing something physical, you can have that all pre-programmed in, ready to go for the next activity, or if you're finding that actually something's not working, you can put something that is going to give you the opportunity to reset the class so that you can continue afterwards. And again, sort of not always having to stand at the front is great, because you want to be interacting with students, getting them involved in the session, and getting used to that interaction and communication through the session, which is obviously, the biggest thing that we're trying to promote.
So Emma, thank you for sharing that experience. To put it into context, can you just share with the people on the call and the people who will listen to the recording a little bit more about Pioneer School, the age and types of students that are supported there, as well as in your class? Because I remember from my visit having to walk through quite a lot of secure areas, and obviously secure classrooms where, the problems of not carrying around computers because they might get thrown out the window and all those types of things. You just put into context the school, the students, and your own students and classroom.
Pioneer School is a school for children with severe learning difficulties and profound multiple learning difficulties. So we deal with a range of children's learning needs, medical and health needs, additional physio needs. So there's a wide range of things that we support throughout the school day. In terms of our classrooms, obviously they're smaller than a mainstream classroom, sort of 10 to 12 in a class. And we obviously, to support our young people, we have obviously a higher staff ratio than a mainstream school, and our children have their own curriculum that we follow that has been used in adaptation from the national curriculum, but is specific, for our children and our our cohort of students. And we run several different curriculums, across the year. So we're always looking at building on learning and understanding, and that has been written by the staff that work at the school, sort of in line with national curriculum sort of standards, but obviously very bespoke and specific to our school. And obviously in terms of, our big focus is on helping our students regulate their emotional well-being. And obviously we need to make sure all our environments are safe for them. So we have lots of things like sensory rooms, we have soft play, we have quiet spaces that our children can go to. And obviously, if someone is finding the day difficult, obviously reducing all the things that are, keeping those spaces safe for them is really important.
That's really good, Emma. Thanks for that. And one last sort of question from me before I open it up to the group. You've been using Merlyn for around about a year. It feels like only yesterday when I was there with Richard Sparks and everything was getting set up, and we were trying out Merlyn in the staff room, sort of with you and some of the other teachers. When you first were explained about Merlyn and we first showed you, can you share what your first experiences were compared to now, where you've been using it for a year or more? It's that sort of journey that I'm trying to just understand. How have you done it, and then how have the other teachers sort of looked at what you're doing?
I think well, to be honest, it was fairly easy to set it all up once it had all been sort of once it'd been put on our school system, it automatically came up. You could access it. It was quite self-explanatory to sort of just follow it through and to create the links and things and assign them. So that was fairly very easy initially to do that. So there wasn't really any sort of like problems starting to use a device. And I just think obviously it has given us options for maybe sometimes being able to maybe link something. Maybe you want a specific thing that maybe needs a little bit more, that might take, if you had to search for it on Google or something, it can just make you be able to access that very quickly. So I think it gives you a bit more of a scope about thinking about what you can use on there, rather than thinking, oh, I'm going to have to click too many times to get that. And that's so you can have it sort of like have that shortcut link. And obviously we are a Google school, so obviously there are benefits to that within things like Google Slides, but certain things can't. You'd have to still go through a link and then you've got to open something. So it's quite good just to be able to go straight there without having to click, open something, click on it. This can just take you straight to the link. So that's quite a positive thing as well, because sometimes if something is very, especially with things like YouTube and things, I try never to sort of go directly to YouTube and make it making that all accessible on my screen. So being able to go to something very specific, that maybe a video that we want to watch 30 seconds of, that can all be sort of like, that can be linked. But if it's not, if it's so that's really positive for us, that you don't have to maybe go through lots of different things to get to the clip that you want. So that's helpful.
No, that's really good. Now I know, Stephen, you're just getting going with your trial at Queen Alexandra College. Any immediate sort of thoughts or questions for Emma as she's gone through this process over the last sort of 12 months? The opportunity for thoughts, Stephen, from you, perhaps.
Yeah, I think I'm in a bit of an awkward position because obviously we picked them up last week, and then our students across the board do exams as well. So we've sort of been doing GCSE exams on the students. So I must admit, they haven't been implemented yet, although our head of IT is doing that this week. So we should have them by the end of the week. I think for me, I'm just wondering, like programming wise, you say about YouTube clips and just press play. How is that different from, say, embedding a YouTube video in a PowerPoint?
I'm thinking so obviously on Google Slides you can embed a YouTube video, but you can't embed every video. Right. So it's when it's not on YouTube. So then you sort of think like, oh, is that? But yeah, so obviously YouTube things we would embed into Google Slides, but it's anything outside of that. Sometimes you don't want to have to like go onto something. You don't want to have to go through all different clicks or put it on the link. It just means that you can just go straight to that thing, which is helpful without having to. But yes, we would generally. There's lots of sort of things on because when it can't, otherwise you've got to somehow download the video, which is often not always viable. So it does help us in that sense.
And how, like obviously you mentioned about student engagement from the faster pace or moving through. Yeah. Would you say it's helped with student engagement? Because I think that's one of the issues I hope to try and fix by using this.
I think it enables you to sort of streamline everything in terms of the pace of your sessions. So you're not trying to maybe locate something that's been sort of like working out where it's been, remembering where it's been saved. Often things have got multiple clicks, so that's the thing that it's sort of eliminating, which is helpful. I think in terms of you're also able to then maybe add in those breaks that you want. So if you do have things like a movement break, it's almost like you can press the button and then that's going to go. You might be in a different part of the room, you might be supporting a child, and you say, right, we're going to put the movement break on, so people can get up and moving. So I think that I think it just sort of helps you as the individual teacher. There's not to say that there aren't other ways of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think sort of like on a day-to-day basis, it's quite, it's really helpful. And even if, I don't know, the skeptics, maybe the people who aren't as comfortable with the technology, even if certain key things are on their Merlyn, that will still make it a little bit easier for them, like sort of during the school day. So
Yeah,
those key things that even if it's only just set on those things for the week, that would potentially help. And then maybe for more experience, more people that, your staff members who might be more interested in tech and seeing how they might want to change it every day.
yeah.
So I think that's the thing, what's going to work best for everybody. But I think with I've had, like, when we used to use laptops and things to control our screens, that my laptop did take a bit of a bashing. And the thing is, you're not always with it because you're somewhere else, and then the laptop's like sort of tied to some, like it's secured, but the actual screen and everything else isn't secure. So that's the other thing, and again, we have wireless, we do also have access to wireless keyboards here, but that makes them very you end up hiding it somewhere.
And those wireless keyboards were massive as well, Emma. I've seen them in the classroom.
Yeah.
But Stephen, a really good point about flow. And could I just bring in Alan and Joe and then James, just to talk about the experience, Alan, that you're seeing at St. Joseph's in terms of how the flow and disruptions through having to go find stuff or stop and click, and the same with you, Joe, how that is valuable to just supporting the students' learning. So Alan.
Yeah, obviously there's sort of convenience of being able to use voice commands. I think what we've been working on and what I've really enjoyed recently was the sessions. Because you start off and initially you're using the timers and you're using the reminders and things. But what I've really liked is the interaction with the sessions, sort of that we've been sort of trying to encourage teachers. And the big thing, I think, is disseminating the message. I know there is and we have all of our teachers on the training, but I think nothing beats somebody coming to your room and literally setting it up for you. And, and I've had the opportunity, but again, I'm a teacher myself. I'm sort of a SEND teacher, so it's only I have to get time off to go into somebody and show, okay, this is how sessions work. And that's probably something we've been developing recently, is because that direct interaction between the children on their Chromebooks and the teacher on the whiteboard, and it's very real time, sort of exchange of information. You're doing a lesson and the children can give their understanding and it'll pop up like on those little post-its on the whiteboard. And, so as I say, we've sort of, you see the benefits of the flow in the classroom, but now I suppose it's trying to see what other components to it can we bring to it that makes it more interactive with the kids, that it's not just the teacher has it in their hand, that it's very much the kids are communicating using the platforms that Merlyn provides.
Yeah, that's really, really good, and I'm sure we'll mention sessions again, because I know at Clare's Court the students' well-being is important, and therefore using sessions just as a snapshot about how
mood, even initially your mood, how are you feeling today when you come in and you've got different faces, and you can just sort of say, yeah, I'm and you can even spark a conversation or and that, and then you have your mood meter along the front. How are we feeling about this? And even that, sort of especially with SEND pupils, how are we feeling today? And it's very visual and it's color coded and it's very easily manipulated. So that's, even on sessions, is a nice way of sort of interacting with your class digitally, and it's real time, and they get to respond. And even if you have language difficulties, you know what I mean? They can do it very visually using the icons or the mood meter and things like that sort of will compensate for children that would have, you know, sort of language issues.
Yeah, the smiley face to the frown one at the other end. Joe, from your perspective, you've seen Merlyn in so many different ways, but beyond the sort of sessions and the remotes and the timers, you've got a strong focus on the questioning and oracy type of thing. Can you sort of give your thoughts on that bit?
Yeah, thanks, Ian. I suppose just to reiterate what Alan said there, while I'm not an SEN teacher, you know, I am part of the care team and in the school, and I think it's a really, really good little way of, at the beginning of a day, gauging, you know, how students are feeling, or if somebody is feeling down on themselves, or if somebody is carrying problems from home into school. It's a very, very subtle, simple way of garnering that little bit of very important information. What I'm, you know, pedagogy in a classroom is very, very important aspect of the introduction of AI, full stop. And I think one of the most important things we can do is to kind of establish the prior knowledge students have of a particular topic. And I think the Let's Discuss feature is brilliant for that. It acts as an icebreaker. It gives students, and whether you pair it with the likes of sessions and the brainstorm board where students are typing in or adding in their information, or whether it's a hands-up activity, or whether it leads into group work and they work into feedback and pairings. So the Let's Discuss a particular topic, and then students collectively work together to give you, you know, the bit of prior knowledge that they have, so that gives you an ability then to pitch in a lesson or focus on something and let it become a very much a student-led activity. So I love the Let's Discuss feature, and I think it's interesting as you start to play with it and you start to understand the prompts yourself. You can start to kind of, by prompting in a particular way or adding in a certain way, you can get higher order thinking, higher order questioning, you know, which is really powerful, and you can have follow-up questions upon follow-up questions. So it's nice. And then obviously, as well as being able to set the age appropriation level or the grade level of the students, is a really nice way of differentiating, that you're not just getting very high kind of level questions for junior students, and so suddenly throwing them, and likewise you're not necessarily getting very, very baseline ones for older students or more advanced students.
Yeah, thanks for that, Joe. Emma, any sort of thoughts, responses to what sort of Alan and Joe have just shared? Are these some of the features that you and some of the other teachers have started to use at Pioneer?
I think obviously some of our levels might not be up to being able to sort of carry out those types of activities. We do try and use things like my colleague who wasn't able to be here, she uses the voice activation to encourage speech in our students. So she's used it in the past, so as they say their name, the birthday slide comes up and the music plays and things like that. So we're very much focusing on like that communication side with using all different types of technology, but it's quite a nice thing that they can sort of utilize it and activate it. We also use things like AAC devices, so again trying to make everything sort of support that, and as long as we get the right volumes, we can use that to then also activate it depending on the background noise, but that's quite a good nice thing for all our students, that's accessible across the board. In terms of we can use switches, we can use AAC devices, lots of different things to support.
Yeah,
and
no,
our purpose is also to encourage speech as well.
No, that's great, and I know James, you're I've always been an advocate for oracy and the skills and the impact that can make. From a Claire's Court perspective, you know, you've seen the journey that Jawad and the teachers in the junior school have made. How would you summarize the impact that Merlyn's had in the classroom?
Well, I'm really picking up on what Emma was saying, that, I mean, at my junior school, the classrooms are quite small, but the teacher wants to be able to move around. And as a result of which, I mean, teaching from the front, you know, changes the dynamic of a classroom, but if you're at the side and can gently move and continue to provide stimulus for your children. It's interesting for us to see the difference between secondary and primary, because as Ian know, we started off thinking that Merlyn would help a wheelchair-bound chemistry teacher of ours, but the reality of secondary level teaching, particularly the higher up you go, the less the teacher needs to move around. You know, we know that at the higher the levels go, kids need to be taught. There's no discovery learning around the finer points of the Bessemer converter or the, you know, sulfur dioxide manufacture. You can't make it up. You've got to. So teaching, direct teaching, is more obviously not the way that AI has helped there. I'll come back to that in a moment, but it's certainly junior level. It's been an absolute game changer for us, because apart from anything else, we noticed that children coming in 2020 just used to talking to Alexa and actually being far more oral at home than they were at school. Particularly one had a lovely pair of children come over from China, and it looked as though we'd inherited obviously nobody speaks English to start with when coming over from Hong Kong when they were evicted, British citizens, and the boy and the girl. The boy had SEM, which we knew, and now he's on the EHCP with a specialist provider at secondary level. But the girls actually was quite amazing, because she loved talking to Merlyn. But a little bit, as I'm sure you know now. I mean, I have to say, Gemini is my best golf coach I've ever had, and my best dietary coach. You know, you don't have to wait forever. And also, of course, in terms of the other things we do, we're used to reaching out and getting very quick advice. What the children have done with it is really rather different, and they like it because they can do teamwork with it. They can do some silly things with it, as well as the teacher be able to navigate around the classroom and stack up things on his drive or her drive. Been really interesting. I teed up the little 2-minute film if you want to show it, but everybody may have seen it already. You're on mute.
Thank you, James. I will make sure that the video is shared with them if you pop it in the chat as well. So I know Emma and everyone, thank you so far. I mean, what we're doing here is sharing, asking questions, learning, Emma, from the work that you and Helen and others. There are a couple of questions in the chat. If I could just sort of turn to those for a moment. Matt was asking, he'd like to know the student sort of learning and sort of behavior outcomes that has happened since you've been using Merlyn. Are there any improvements or surprises from the students that you've been teaching? How have the students responded to your use of Merlyn in the class?
I think the because it's quite discreet, some of our children don't pay. It's for quite unfamiliar looking. It doesn't look like, maybe in the sense of for a classroom, it looks a bit like a TV remote, like sort of the shape of it, but not really. It's not like so I think they're sort of a little bit interested in it, but it's in comparison to things like the keyboard or the iPad, it's kind of we haven't got that hyper focus on it, which is quite nice, because then they're looking at all the other things I'm trying to show them, which is really lovely. When we do use it, they're very interested in the things that they can activate with it, which again is quite nice. And because there's only a few controls on it, it does mean then that, like for some of our learners, you know, we can practice some of those fine motor skills about isolating fingers and pressing a button if it's something that we want to, you know, involve our students in, like let's start the next, press this one, we were going to start the next activity, but there's not the whole keyboard with lots of different things, so that can be, you know, quite a nice positive thing, but it's also small enough for you to have on your person sort of all the time, so you're not having to leave it places, so it's not easily sort of picked up or anything like that, which is quite handy.
Yeah, so the strap that you can carry around your wrist sort of makes that. Thank you for that. Anna, I mean, do you want to ask your question yourself, Anna? You're on mute, sorry.
Yeah, I think it's preventative at this point. I think all the systems just set me on mute because I talk too much. Emma, would you say Merlyn is helpful when something happens in the class unexpectedly? And can you use Merlyn to help with this? And if so, could you tell us how you do that?
Obviously, you know, throughout the day, children's needs change. Obviously, we have children with medical needs. So if something changes in that sense, and suddenly there's more staff that are required elsewhere, then obviously you can have certain things set up on, you know, set up to start activating. So if it's like an online game, so you can get everybody involved in something around the plasma, maybe with one adult, and then maybe some other children can do something else, or you can set up some maybe a favoured activity,
Okay.
like music or some sort of you know, story session that they really enjoy, something that you can lead maybe on your own where you don't need as many people. That can be quite helpful in that sense. Or again, if there is something that one particular child really likes, and if they're having a difficult day, you can quickly put something on that they will enjoy, and you don't have to maybe search out where it is, or where, if you've got it saved on something, where it's located. So that's quite helpful. And again, for things like if someone's covering your lesson, so if you're off on training, you can have it all set up for them, which is quite nice, so that they can just activate the screen and they know if they press this that your circle time will come up, and that's all they have to do for your morning meeting. It's all there ready for them, and they don't have to maybe, if you've shared documents and things with them, and then it's on their email, and then they've got to open it, and then it's in their shared with me folder, and you know, all of those things, it can just automatically be sort of like, oh, it's there, it's ready for you. You can just click through and your day is sort of organized. So I think that can help with stress levels of staff.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good example, Emma, because I know from Ulster University, one of the lecturers there, he said that when he goes into a lecture hall, he has the 4 resources that he's going to use to teach the students. He simply presses buttons 1, 2, 3, and 4, and up pop all the resources that he needs, and then off he goes and running. So even for that, where teachers just know, they just press a button and the resources there. It's saving on the stress. It's saving on the time. So thank you for that. Matt was asking a question about your fellow teachers. So I know that you and Helen particularly have been using Merlyn extensively. What about the other teachers in the staff room when they see and hear what you've been doing? How has the wider teaching staff sort of responded to the Merlyn use at the school?
I think a lot of, especially for our younger classes, that I think they find it particularly helpful, again, because they don't have to have as much equipment out, so it enables them to really not have to worry about resources, not about things being left on the side, or things getting knocked over and things like that. So I think that definitely is one of the things, that they can just have that on their wrist or in their pocket, or you know, sort of a lot of us wear things like we have lots of things like with keys and communication devices on them. So again, it's something we can sort of like have attached to us in some way. So that's quite useful. So.
No, that's great. I'm conscious of time, and if possible, I'd like to sort of finish 5 minutes early to give you back a little bit of your afternoon. Emma, from your perspective, are there things which, if Merlyn, three things, if Merlyn could only do A, B, and C, that would really extend how you use it in the school or in the classroom? Could you share with us what those three things might be? And I know I should have asked you this earlier.
So what do you mean? What do you mean, like the three things that I really like about it now, or three things you want me to?
Let's go for three things you'd like it to do in the future.
Well, I think anything that, just trying to sort of think, anything that can link in with any of the programs that we use at school, in things like communication. I think that anything like that would be really, I'm trying to think how you do it.
No, but
the things that you've mentioned about like the sticky notes and the different things, obviously some of that requires a very a different level of literacy to some of the young people. So we use a lot of things with symbols, we use a lot of images. So I think anything that allows our children to communicate using those types of you know, using that, we use widget. There are lots of other symbol providers, but anything that can link in with things that we already use that then allow our students to communicate their views and ideas, would be amazing.
That's a great idea.
So I think that's quite a big one, really. I feel like that's quite a hard thing to ask you to do, so I don't know.
Oh, let us worry about that. This is just your wish list. You don't have to worry about it.
And anything that can sort of very easily link in with, you know, the AAC devices and things that we use, anything that, you know, promotes that, you know, opportunity to encourage our young people to communicate, I think is really, I think we've been focusing very much on like single words, but one of the big things for us is about broadening our students' communication. So again, having that effectiveness and making sure things work consistently, because obviously that's where you get the student buy-in, I think, in terms of like being able to pick up speech and different things like that. I think is, you know, a really positive sort of thing for us. Or whether or not you could attach something that where it's got like a microphone attachment, so we could promote that to get that real, you know, sort of like something, if that would help. I'm not sure what would.
No,
sort of punching above my weight there, I think.
Yeah, I think all of these ideas are great, Emma, because the whole process here is one of co-development. So this isn't somebody sat in the dark room thinking, "Ooh, I wonder, here's a whole set of features." This is very much sort of listening to practitioners, using the product, using it well, using it differently, sharing those experiences, and then saying, I wonder if we could do this. And as time goes on, more integrations can take place. James, you've got your hand up. You have a question.
I'll just put my hand down. So I think one of the things I've seen with all the other AI products I use is that they're accelerating quite quickly in terms of what they permit the users to do. And I learned at a seminar I attended last Thursday afternoon that ChatGPT 5.5 was written entirely by ChatGPT 5 without human intervention. Now, the thing is, where we're looking at in terms of the secondary school, being able to use the tools we use on the Google Workspace to be able to have children articulate something and something other than. So in other words, when they do films with Merlyn at the moment, as the girls do, as you know, bouncing up and down, just looking forward to seeing how those tools will develop. Specifically for us, it's absolutely always about developing the confidence of oracy. We have, being an independent school, we have an awful lot of children who have, a third of our children have some kind of identified special educational need. Whether that's actually the parents wanting to find some way of identifying their children as special is a little bit of joke we have, because there clearly are some children who have needs that are within the mainstream. But much more importantly, we have a lot of children who are afraid of talking in their peer group. It seems to have got younger and younger. And I'm just very interested in seeing how the tool can improve, because it is for us absolutely the teacher's assistant, but it's independent of the teacher now. And when children can't do a sum and so on, so the wand is there and they'll just have a quiet chat with the screen whilst the class get on with doing other things. I mean, it's those kind of things we're trying to promote, where because we're having in our sector to lose teaching assistants from the classroom quite rapidly. In fact, in the state sector, it's less than one teaching assistant per 2 classrooms now, which is a terrible pity, when you know that the plan would be always have the teacher supported always. But so in a slightly different way, we've thoroughly enjoyed that bit, as Ian knows, and hence to share with the film, you can see some of those ideas. Very trivial, but I mean, it's. I think that for us, the simple ideas and the trivial ideas are the things that work from year 5 downwards, and they become quite good masters of it, and they feel as though they're in charge of a technology, they're not going to run away, and because they're in a safe ecosystem, you can let them.
No, that's great, James. So I'm conscious of time, so I'm now going to thank Emma for sharing her experiences at the Pioneer School. Please pass on our thanks to Joe and Helen and all the other people involved, and keep on doing the great work. For Joe and Alan and Stephen and James, thank you for all the work that you're doing, because it's all about experimentation. And Stephen, I know you've got this to come, but hopefully from hearing about the work that James and Alan and Joe and Emma have done, that will give you confidence as you start your trial. We will stop the recording now.